In 2014, a man named Ronald Read died in Brattleboro, Vermont. He was 92 years old. For his entire life, Ronald Read was a janitor and a gas station attendant. He wore old flannel shirts. He drove a second-hand Toyota Yaris. He chopped his own firewood to save money on heating. To his neighbors, he was just a nice, quiet, working-class guy. If you saw him on the street, you would assume he was living paycheck to paycheck, just scraping by. But when he died, he shocked the world. Ronald Read left behind an estate worth $8 million. He had quietly amassed a fortune by investing in blue-chip stocks and letting them compound for decades. He was secretly one of the richest men in his town. Now compare him to a man we will call Richard. Richard is a vice president at a tech company. He makes $400,000 a year. He drives a brand new Range Rover. He lives in a $3 million house in the hills. He wears a Rolex Daytona. To his neighbors, Richard is rich. He is the definition of success. But Richard has a secret too. He has $40,000 in credit card debt. He has almost zero cash in the bank. He lives in constant fear of losing his job because if he misses 2 paychecks, he will default on his mortgage. Richard looks rich, but he is financially fragile. Ronald looked poor, but he was financially invincible. This is the fake rich paradox. We live in a society that judges wealth by what we can see. We see the cars, the houses, the clothes, and the Instagram vacations. But wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the watches not worn, the first-class upgrades declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff you see. The problem is that the human brain is not wired to understand this. We are social animals. We are wired to signal status. And in the modern world, status signaling is the single fastest way to destroy your freedom. To understand why we fall into the fake rich trap, we have to look at evolutionary psychology. For most of human history, status was survival. If you were a high-status member of the tribe, you got the best food. You got the best mates. You were protected during the winter. If you were low status, you were ignored. You were the last to eat. You were the most likely to die. So, we evolved a deep biological need to prove our worth to others. In the animal kingdom, this is called the handicap principle. Think of a peacock. The male peacock grows a massive, colorful tail. This tail is heavy. It makes it hard to fly. It makes it easy for predators to spot him. It is a survival disadvantage. So why does he grow it? He grows it to send a signal to the female peacocks. The signal is, I am so strong and my genes are so good that I can survive even with this massive, heavy tail dragging me down. The wastefulness of the tail is the point. If the tail was small and efficient, it wouldn't prove anything. Humans do the exact same thing. When you buy a luxury car for $80,000, you are behaving exactly like the peacock. A $20,000 Honda Civic will get you to work just as fast as the $80,000 Mercedes. Functionally, they are almost identical. They both have 4 wheels, air conditioning, and Bluetooth. The extra $60,000 you spend on the Mercedes is the peacock's tail. It is a signal to the tribe that says, I have so many resources that I can afford to burn $60,000 on a badge. But here is the tragedy of the modern world. In the past, you actually had to have the resources to send the signal. If a tribal chief threw a massive feast, it proved he had a surplus of food. Today, thanks to debt, you can send the signal without having the resources. You can lease the Mercedes. You can put the Rolex on a credit card. You can get a mortgage for the mansion with only 5% down. You can fake the signal. This has created a world of fake rich people. People who are obsessed with looking wealthy, but who are actually drowning in the liability of their own signals. They are peacocks who glued fake feathers to their tails, and now they can't fly, and the wolves are closing in. The danger of the fake rich trap is that it confuses income with wealth. Income is how much money you make. Wealth is how much money you keep. You can have a massive income and zero wealth. We see this all the time with professional athletes and lottery winners. They make millions, but they spend millions. They are essentially high-paid conduit pipes. The money flows in and the money flows out. True wealth is the accumulation of assets that pay you. It is the money that stays in the bucket. But here is the paradox. The only way to build wealth is to not spend money that you could have spent. It requires you to suppress your ego. It requires you to reject the peacock instinct. When you see someone driving a Ferrari, you instinctively think, that guy is rich. But the only data point you actually have is that he has $300,000 less than he did before he bought the car. Or more likely, that he has $300,000 more in debt. Morgan Housel, the author of The Psychology of Money, puts it perfectly. He says, spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. So why do we do it? Why do we sacrifice our freedom for a car or a watch? It comes down to a psychological error called the spotlight effect. We believe that everyone is looking at us. We believe that if we drive the nice car, people will look at us and think, wow, he is successful, he is important. But that is not what happens. When you drive down the street in a nice car, people don't look at you. They look at the car and they imagine themselves driving it. You are just a prop in their own fantasy. They aren't admiring you. They are using your possession to fuel their own desire. Nobody cares about your possessions as much as you do. Once you understand this, the spell is broken. You realize that you are spending money you don't have, to impress people who don't care, to gain a status that doesn't exist. So, how do we escape the trap? How do we become like Ronald Read instead of Richard? We have to embrace a philosophy called stealth wealth. Stealth wealth is the art of being rich without looking rich. It is the understanding that financial freedom is more valuable than social status. Here is the 3-step blueprint to practicing stealth wealth. Step 1. Define your enough. The fake rich game has no finish line. There is always a nicer car. There is always a bigger boat. There is always a more exclusive neighborhood. If you play the status game, you are on a treadmill that never stops. You have to define what enough looks like for you, independent of what your neighbors are doing. For Ronald Read, enough was a warm house, a reliable car, and good food. Because his needs were low, his savings rate was massive. If you can be happy with a simple life, you become dangerous. You become unbribable. You become free. Step 2. Calculate the time cost of luxury. When you look at a luxury item, don't look at the price tag in dollars. Look at the price tag in time. Let's say you make $50 an hour after taxes. You want to buy a luxury watch that costs $5,000. That watch isn't $5,000. That watch is 100 hours of your life. That is 2.5 weeks of sitting in a cubicle, dealing with emails, and tolerating stress. Is the watch worth 2 weeks of your freedom? Maybe it is. If you love watches, maybe it is. But for most things, the upgraded leather seats, the designer brand t-shirt, the answer is no. When you start pricing things in hours of life, the urge to signal status disappears. You realize that freedom is the ultimate luxury. Step 3. Automate your humility. The hardest part of stealth wealth is fighting the urge to upgrade. As your income grows, your lifestyle naturally wants to expand to fill the space. This is called lifestyle creep. To stop this, you need to hide the money from yourself. If you get a raise, take 100% of that raise and automate it directly into your investment account. Do not let it hit your checking account. If you don't see it, you can't spend it. You force yourself to live on your old income, while your wealth grows silently in the background. This is how you build the kind of wealth that Ronald Read had. Not by winning the lottery, but by refusing to play the status game. There is a famous quote by the rapper Jay-Z. He said, "If you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it." But I would go further. If you can't buy it without impacting your sleep, you can't afford it. If you can't buy it without checking your bank balance, you can't afford it. If you are buying it to make someone else jealous, you can't afford it. The goal of fiscal psychology is not to look rich. The goal is to be rich. Being rich means you own your time. It means you can quit a job you hate. It means you can survive a recession without panic. It means you can sleep at night. The man in the Ferrari might look like he's winning, but if he has to go to a job he hates tomorrow morning to pay for the gas, he is losing. The man in the Toyota might look average, but if he owns his time, he is the king. Don't let the shiny objects distract you. The game is not about looking the part. The game is about winning your freedom. Choose wealth over status. Choose freedom over flash. Be the janitor who owns the bank, not the executive who owes the bank.